Woke, an adjective derived from African American culture, originally meaning alertness to racial prejudice and discrimination. What woke means now. Somewhere along the 2010s, the word woke became a more mainstream and broader thing. It went from being used by one community to being about every community.
Reject woke ideology. We fight the woke in the legislature. We fight the woke in the schools. We fight the woke in the corporations. We will never ever surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to die.
White liberals and Republicans did what they do best. They stole something and messed up the meaning of it. Nowadays, woke is just a buzzword that can mean anything, and it's definitely a word that comes up a lot in modern day film criticism, mainly from the right. Woke can mean there's a woman in a movie. It can mean there's a gay character in it. It can mean there's a freaking black person in the film. It's just another way of saying you're racist or sexist or homophobic, and it doesn't really mean anything anymore. And the funny thing is, when they do mention a movie that isn't woke, it just ends up being a movie that is. Tropic Thunder! This can never be made now because it has blackface. The blackface is literally seen as a bad thing, and the character of Kirk Lazarus exists to take the piss out of shallow Oscar vulture white actors who only do things to win awards. There's even a character who literally treats him weirdly due to the offensive thing he's doing and looks at him weirdly for trying to act like he's lived the same life as him just because he dresses up like him for a movie.
Wait, you need another revenue stream?
For your information, my revenue stream currently generates $2 million a year in charitable contributions for my community.
Hot damn.
And why am I in this movie? Maybe I just knew I had to represent because they had one good part in here for a black man. They gave it to Crocodile Dundee.
White Chicks literally came out around the same time, and so did Bamboozled. I guess those are woke movies though. Fight Club is a movie they love to mention. It's literally about dumb frat bros who don't understand Marxism, but tons of conservatives think Brad Pitt is really cool and that he's helping you escape the Matrix. The Matrix, another movie they like to suck on, even though it's actually a trans allegory made by trans directors. These same people also tend to obsess over the materialistic things that Brad Pitt's character in Fight Club is against though. Travis Bickle is a literally me character. Patrick Bateman has aura. He's the butt of every joke in American Psycho.
Goes out with that loser Patrick Bateman. What a dork.
And The Boys was loved by conservatives, but they eventually found out the show doesn't love them back. Blazing Saddles is another big movie Republicans love to say it could never get made today. Yeah, you're right, Gary and Karen from Arkansas that have never watched the movie. Blazing Saddles, the movie about how racist white people are stupid and dumb, where a black sheriff comes to town only for the white people to realize he's not that bad, would never get made today. The woke hate that type of stuff. You never see them mention something like Soul Man, a genuinely offensive movie where a white guy does blackface for an hour and a half only to realize he shouldn't be doing it. Why? Because that movie is genuinely bad. Soul Man was hated back in the 80s when it came out, and it's hated today. And even back then it was super controversial due to its racism.
What is it that annoys you and others I've spoken to about, what's the name of that film, Soul Man? Am I getting into a can of worms or peas? I really want to know.
Okay, for people who don't know about Soul Man, the premise is that you have this rich kid whose father's a millionaire and refuses to pay his way through Harvard Law School. Mm-hmm. And there's a black scholarship. So the only way he can get into Harvard Law School is to take a pill that's a suntan pill and put on an afro wig, and he gets admitted as a black student.
Passes himself off as a minority.
And it looks phony. There's no way in the world to see how Thomas looks black. And to me, it's really a attack on affirmative action.
It has a well-intentioned ending of the main character realizing black people struggle every day and that he shouldn't pretend to be one because he's taking the spot from someone else. But it's super crude and offensive before we get to this conclusion, and it's honestly just a shit movie. But even in that movie, there has to be an intention or moral to the bad shit, because movies have always been like that. You probably have to go back to like the 1920s or 1930s or 1940s for a movie to have offensive shit without reasoning for it to be funny to an audience member, because people were pieces of shit back then. It's really funny that conservatives say movies are woke now, and then will use an example from a left-leaning 1990s film to prove that movies weren't woke when they were like 10 years old. This doesn't mean conservative movies are bad. I mess with Clint Eastwood. Unforgiven is hard as fuck. Many people believe the Dark Knight trilogy has some conservative stuff, specifically about cops in it. Those are loved by pretty much everyone. Mel Gibson is a competent director. But I don't see conservatives ever bringing up those types of examples when talking about this subject. They always have to bring up something stupid that nobody has watched, something that only exists to stir up hate, something bigoted. Matt Walsh's Am I Racist is an all-new video essay made by professional grifter Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire. It stirred up a lot of controversy because he's a controversial figure that's also made transphobic propaganda in the past, and this glorified video essay looks similar to his previous work, except this time it's released in theatres and is marketed as a movie. I don't really care for it all that much. There is a funny Jeremy Jahns review I want to talk about later though, but filmmaking is automatically a liberating thing. You're angry, you're passionate, or want to share something, and you do this by filming and making something. It's a very creative process, something very unconventional. It's not a 9-to-5 job. You're not a butcher or a farmer or a cop or something. You're making movies and want your own creative control in this thing. If you were a conservative, you probably believe in obeying the man, following the government, not questioning it and working a safe job that will support your family. As a filmmaker, you're kind of going against the norm and could be seen as someone that is not conforming to society. Also, everyone from the Daily Wire is a theatre kid. They're like the gayest people I know.
In the darkness, a fugitive running, fallen from God, fallen from grace. God be my witness.
Oklahoma, where
I
the wind
never
goes
shall
whistling down the plain.
yield
Oklahoma, where the waving
till
wheat
we meet
sure
face to
smells
face.
sweet when the wind comes right behind the rain.
Till we meet face to face.
Oklahoma, every night.
He
my
knows
honey
his
lamb
way
and I,
in the
every night we sit
dark.
alone and talk. and
Mine is the
talk.
way of the Lord.
Making lazy circles in the sky.
Those who follow
we know
the
we
path
belong
of the
to
righteous
the land, and the land we belong
shall
to is
have
bright.
Jeremy Jahns is a famous YouTuber. He reviewed Am I Racist because he knew it would get views and the internet was angry with him. Everyone is upset with him because he gave it a positive rating, but I don't think anyone has actually watched the review because it's fucking awful. Jeremy is kind of a centrist, closer to the right. You know, I don't really care about his politics, I don't really care at all about them, but his audience is mad weird. Jeremy gave Barbie kind of a mixed review and said it wasn't really for him, but he didn't call it woke or try to shit on the film all that much.
All that said, how was the movie? I was meh about it. As much as the introduction I thought was nice and clever, I thought, okay, we're gonna get some pop culture movie references wrapped into a Barbie package of sorts. The first 20 minutes or so was actually falling into this whole Barbie land acid trip fever dream that I was in. By the end, the movie felt like it had too much going on in it. Maybe it's because it really felt like it wanted to hammer home the message. I don't necessarily even think alcohol is what you need, but there's definitely something you can take that can aid in the experience.
But his comment section was full of incels glazing him and thanking him for not being woke like Chris Stuckman, who liked the movie. When he reviewed Sound of Freedom, which he, surprise, surprise, liked, they called him brave for speaking about the film, and when he reviewed Am I Racist, they were licking his balls, thanking him, and acting like he just sucked them all off for 35 minutes. It's clever grifting on his behalf to review these movies on YouTube for views, and to say some positive things for engagement. But he's not so far right where he's making 50-hour videos defending these movies with his life. He's just doing a bit of grifting. The actual review of Am I Racist from Jeremy Jahns is probably one of the worst reviews on the platform. It's only 4 minutes long, and Jeremy ends up talking more about paperwork and how he hasn't subscribed to the Daily Wire streaming service because he's already subscribed to as many streaming services as there is already.
Now, unlike What is a Woman, which was on, I believe it was Daily Wire Plus, I believe that's their streaming service, I was like, I'm not signing up for another streaming service, no, I got enough. This is actually theatrically released, so I was like, alright, bought a ticket and watched it.
Instead of actually talking about the movie, the only things he talks about to do with the film is the comedy, and he makes really surface level comments about how he's shocked that Matt Walsh is actually surprisingly funny to him.
First off, Matt Walsh is surprisingly funny. I don't know, I just kind of didn't know that about him. I kind of got a glimpse of that when I saw that he crashed the Democratic National Convention in the name of promoting this movie. Come on. That is funny. But there are scenarios and situations in this movie where he's talking to someone or a group. He has to think on his feet, and I thought he did a really good job. There's a big part of me that was like, how do these folks not actually know that he's Matt Walsh? There was one group that sniffed that.
It's a political film, and Jeremy doesn't talk about the politics at all, which is just hilarious to me. Matt Walsh himself probably intended for the audience to talk about the politics to do with the film because he's a political commentator making a political movie. It's really fucking funny to me. It's like watching Call Me By Your Name and not talking about the gay themes in that film. Or it's like talking about Harry Potter and not talking about the fucking wizards. Jeremy, the movie is a political film. Maybe talk about it and dissect it a bit and talk about the politics in the fucking movie. Oh, and he's also done blackface before, which answers Jeremy's question in the title.
Suck my blade, motherfucker. Vampires are cooler than fuzzy dogs. Blade.
This video was actually inspired by an Instagram post I actually stumbled upon about 2 months ago. It's a post called Woke Cinema, where stories are sacrificed for statements, and it was made by an account with over 230,000 followers. You know, those ones that just post pictures of Margot Robbie and Ana de Armas because they find them attractive. The ones that post the same 5 stills from the same 5 Nolan movies. The first slide of this post says, remember when movies were just about compelling stories and genuine characters? Think of films like The Godfather or Pulp Fiction. Pure storytelling, no agendas. Today it's more about ticking boxes, pandering to every group rather than focusing on the art of cinema. Ah yes, Godfather, that amazing non-woke movie about Italian Americans and the discrimination they suffer from the American government and the officials around their areas. You know, the movie where Vito Corleone and the mob is more of like a Robin Hood type of society that looks out for the people in their burbs. From heroes to virtue signaling, Marvel was once synonymous with epic storytelling, but now it's more about pushing woke narratives than telling great stories. Take Captain Marvel, a film that felt like it was more about promoting a strong female lead than delivering a compelling story. Or She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, which was more focused on tackling social issues than on character development. First of all, She-Hulk sucks in my opinion because it tries to be very quippy, very meta, very quirky. They even got the writer of Rick and Morty. They got a writer from Rick and Morty to write the show because they wanted to have more of a Deadpool vibe. And it's why Deadpool Wolverine didn't work in my opinion because Marvel already attempted something similar to that with She-Hulk. But in my opinion, that's why She-Hulk falls flat. It feels like filler because it's very sitcom-y and it didn't need to be, you know? And then they also mentioned Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel sucks. It's a crap movie. I think it's a crap movie because it feels like every other origin film already done to death. It's too generic, too dull, and kind of bland. It doesn't ever create anything super unique, and it has really laughable 90s references and needle drops to kind of nostalgia bait the audience into kind of liking the movie, you know, thinking it has more personality than it actually does. It's also like super pro, like, army. Like, it's actually very pro-government, which goes against it trying to appeal to the left. And also, the person here says a strong female lead. I would be kind of pissed off if my superhero movie did not have a strong female lead. You know, because she's a superhero. You know, aren't superheroes meant to be strong? The next slide says diversity should be natural, not forced. I agree with that. Diversity is essential, but it should come naturally, not feel forced. Take the Ghostbusters 2016 reboot. An all-female cast that felt like a gimmick rather than necessarily reimagining of the story, or The Little Mermaid, casting a black actress as Ariel, which sparked debates not about the story, but about the political correctness of the casting. I agree with you that sometimes a company like Disney will just try to, you know, be as diverse. I don't think like the big ups like Bob Iger actually do care about diversity. I feel like they're just doing it to tick every box, like you said, you're right. But there's casting directors, there's writers, there's directors that have someone in mind or do want to give someone a chance because they generally think they did better than the other actors that auditioned for the role. And I feel like those people kind of care about that type of stuff, you know? And also Ghostbusters, a lot of the hate did come from it being an all-female cast, but if you actually watch the movie, it's just a crappy Paul Feig film. Like, it's just a crappy comedy, and that's my main issue with it, personally. And The Little Mermaid, the casting sparked debates, not about the story, but about the political correctness of the casting. I wonder who sparked those debates. Because it sure as hell wasn't the left that was making a massive fuss about it. No, it was the damn right, who were just fucking talking about that like it's the biggest like problem ever with this fucking film, not the fact that it's a straight, you know, fucking adaptation of an already beloved classic. Because Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, they're exactly the same as The Little Mermaid. But nobody talked about those because they were, they casted a white person as the lead. Everyone's offended, comedy's dead. Comedy used to be fearless, think Blazing Saddles, a film that couldn't be made today because it would offend too many people. Modern comedians like Dave Chappelle face backlash simply for pushing boundaries. The fear of offending has led to watered down safe comedy that's lost its edge. Blazing Saddles, everybody! If you're playing woke bingo out there in the back, Blazing Saddles, bingo! They can't go one post without mentioning fucking Blazing Saddles. And you won't believe who he uses as like a figurehead, as someone he quotes from in the next slide to really invoke this point. It's freaking Todd Phillips, the director of Joker. Todd Phillips, the director of Due Date and Hangover. You can make Hangover or Due Date in 2024. It would just go straight to Netflix and it would be received it would have mixed reception. Because it would be seen as too safe and kind of generic, because stuff like The Hangover and Due Date, it's not the most original thing ever. It's stuff that's kind of been done to death now, and we're probably, kind of suffer from that. It wouldn't suffer from, I don't know, being too non-woke. Like, Hangover and Due Date, or like, even Old School, they don't have like super harmful fucking jokes that you can't just repeat or laugh at, I guess Hangover 2 and 3 have some jokes, like the Bangkok stuff and all that. There's some transphobia in those movies, but like, they were shit sequels anyways. Even the fans of the original film agree that those movies kind of sucked ass. And Road Trip is one of those raunchy slogfests that they released in theaters because teenagers were... there was no streaming services back in fucking 2003 whenever Road Trip came out. So teenagers would just crawl to the theater to watch tits, really. Yeah, because they wouldn't have wide access to it at home. You couldn't watch fucking P-Hub on your phone. So people would watch shit like Road Trip, American Pie. But if you watch those movies again, they just age badly. They're just like, kind of just throwing everything at a wall to see what sticks. I once started a post listing, then he yaps about this like false scenario that probably never happened. If it did, my bad, bro, but I don't really give a fuck. The only thing I find funny about this is that he mentions Mary Harron on the same slide, same sentence as Catherine Bigelow and Agnes Varda, which I find really funny, because everybody loves mentioning Mary Harron, but no offense to her, I have not watched her filmography. It's gotten very mixed reception aside from American Psycho. But American Psycho is the only Mary Harron movie that anybody can flippin' mention. It's the only movie anybody's ever watched from her. Name me 3 Mary Harron movies. You can't. I don't want to be a Nirvana fan, but it's true. She's a one-hit wonder when it comes to incel and big film pages and stuff. And I just love how she always gets mentioned. I always find that really funny. And lastly, follow for daily dose of woke cinema with Homelander on the cover from everybody's favorite fucking show, The Boys. Republicans love The Boys and The Boys loves them back. So yeah, interesting video. I found this to be a funny subject. I want to make a video about it. Subscribe for non-woke cinema.